Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Jashana here to talk about my stats for 2021. My reading stats, obviously. Gotta pull up my graphs. Don't mind me. Hello? Here we go. All right, so it is Christmas Eve right now, so I do technically have a whole other week in which I could be finishing more books. I just don't think I will. I'm in the middle of one right now that I will have finished by then, so I am going to count that one. I just don't think I will finish another one by the end of the year. I might not even start another one. I might. I don't know. Because I'm about halfway through, and it's nonfiction, and I've been reading a fair amount, like yesterday and today, so I might finish it by like tomorrow or Sunday, and maybe I would pick up another one, but I might just chill and not start anything new. So I'm gonna go in the order in which I have these graphs in my Canva. I don't remember if this is the same order I did it last year. It doesn't matter, who fucking cares? But yeah, number of books read each month. So for the year total, counting the one I'm gonna finish, I have read 71 books. And I don't remember how many I read last year. Let's fucking see. Last year I read 93? For real? Damn. Had no idea. So I read slightly less this year, which makes sense because I have been actively rejecting obligation reading. And I definitely have been reading more slowly this year. I'm just not pressuring myself to like fucking read all the shit. So there's that. But yeah, looking at my books per month, it definitely is lower. I remember last year, most months were around, it was like 9 books on average. But this year, the most I read in a month was in January when I read 10. And then 5 has been the most consistent books per month read. With a couple months where I only read 4. And I'm not mad at it. Like I said, I'm reading what I fucking want when I want. I've done a couple of projects with like my fantasy romance deep dive, which I do have one more round of that to do. And then now I'm doing StoryGraph recommendations and like, are they good recommendations? But other than that, I'm just I'm not doing any readathons, which I don't think I did any last year either. I might have done 2. This year I did 0 and very few buddy reads. And yeah, I'm gonna continue that into 2022. Just reading whatever the fuck I want, when I want. Now, looking at money spent versus money saved. Last year, it was a lot more money saved. Last year, it was around $500 that I spent, and it was like around $600 or something that I saved. This year, it's almost $900 that I spent, and about $200 that I saved. And money saved, how I calculate that, it's library books. So anytime I get a book from the library, whether it is a physical copy, audiobook, or ebook, I go on just Amazon to like have a base and look at what that edition would cost if I were to spend my money on it, right? I just didn't use the library very much this year. So there's that. And I spent a fair amount on books. And this is like money spent on books for myself. I don't believe I've ever counted gifts for people. So that would be more. It's fine. Like I said, I mentioned this in my like goals video. I'm fortunate in my career and whatnot. I'm not going broke with spending money on books. That's the most I've ever spent in a year. But I enjoy owning books that I like. So I'm totally fine with it. I do want to bring it down just to like be more aware of it and be more conscious of it, because there are things, you know, I could be spending my money on that are more productive, like shit for my house and whatnot. So then books acquired and books unhauled, pretty even this year. I acquired 77 new books and I unhauled 74. I know I do have still some Christmas books coming in, like from family and whatnot. Those haven't been counted because I don't have them yet. But up until today, Christmas Eve, 77 and then 74. So almost evened it out, really, but not quite. I'm constantly unhauling shit, so yeah, I mean, what was it last year? Yeah, last year I didn't unhaul quite as much. I unhauled, what, just under 50? And I acquired or hauled like around 80. So I did better this year as far as unhauling. I think I was a little more ruthless this year with unhauls. So diverse reads. I might stop keeping track of, well, I might still keep track of this. Yeah, I'll keep track of this. So for me, diverse reads, I'm talking about the content of the book, the characters of the book, and the options I have are yes, just like straight up yes, diverse cast of characters, diverse themes, etc. We are talking about marginalized experiences. We are showing marginalized experiences, showcasing, etc. And not necessarily like the actual reality of like negative marginalized experiences, but just we have marginalized characters in this book. And then no would be like, nope, it's just basically a bunch of straight white people. And we're not talking about much here, whatever. And then ish would be, it's like maybe the main characters aren't really doing any of that, but maybe there's some side characters that sort of are, etc., things like that. So this year, it's mostly yes, and then ish. So only 23% were just a straight up no. So that's cool. It was about the same last year, though. Last year, it was 21.9% were a straight up no. So slightly less, but like right around the same. That's fine. You know, I do read a fair amount of adult fantasy that sometimes there's stuff that's just, it's not very diverse. It is what it is. But I do try to like pay attention to that and read as diversely as possible. The age range of the books that I read. So last year I had 70.6% adult and 26.6% young adult, and then very little new adult and very little middle grade. And this year I have 78.2% adult, 20.7% young adult, and then 1.1 new adult. So continuing on the trend of mostly reading adult. Yeah, that's not surprising. Genre. This is also unsurprising as fuck. 78.2% fantasy this year. And that's up from last year. Last year it was 65.5% fantasy. So definitely more. But then my historical fiction and nonfiction were less. Or no, my nonfiction was less, not my historical. Historical fiction was 6.9% this year, and last year it was like 3 something. And nonfiction was only 4.6% this year, so slightly less. I had a lot more romance this year, 5.7. Last year was 4.5. So there's that. But yeah, not surprised. I do keep track also of like subgenre for fantasy. I don't think I have like an actual, I probably won't actually make a graph to show you guys. I have a graph right here, but I don't know, it's not that. Because the thing is with subgenres of fantasy, like it's kind of cool to like see, but like so many books that are fantasy, like it could fit into a couple different things. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's very political, but it's also romance. Maybe it's very political, but it's also kind of like an epic quest, and so on and so forth. Like, there's not a fantasy book that just fits under one subgenre of fantasy. Number in the series, that was one I did keep track of last year. I kept track of it this year for the most. I started to, but then I decided to do away with that because I now have the whole series page, the whole series tab where I'm keeping track. So that like wasn't really helpful for me. So that's one that's different from this year. I'm not showing that. So like next year I will report with like how many series I finished. This year, could I tell you how many I did? So this year on this list of series, is that all? Is that really all? I DNF'd several. I DNF'd 5 series this year. And then I completed 3. The Kingmaker Chronicles, the Heart of Fire, etc. by Amanda Bouchette, fantasy romance. Legends of the First Empire, finished that. And then the Daevabad trilogy. Oh, and Greenbone Saga, finished that as well. So 4. I completed 4 series this year. Oh yeah, Faithful and the Fallen. I fucking finished that this year too. So, and then are there others that I finished? No, I don't think so actually. I think that is it. Because there's a couple that I did technically finish, but they were rereads. So 5 series that I finished this year, Jesus Christ. And then 5 that I DNF'd. The format of the books that I read this year, 64.3% physical, not surprising, 27.4% ebook, and 8.3% audiobook. And that is about the same for audiobook and more for ebook. A lot of the fantasy romances are not available at the library. And I would only have like the option of physical or ebook to purchase. And since a lot of them I wasn't sure if I was going to like, and I'm glad that I didn't buy physical copies because a lot of them I DNF'd. But that is mostly why I have more ebook this year. So that's cool. And last year I think I kept track of, whether it was physically owned or physical from the library. This year I just kept track of if it was physical, ebook, or audiobook, and then separately where from. So 63.9% of the books that I read were books I owned, whether it was ebook, physical book, or audiobook. Like I had paid money to acquire whatever version. 6% were from Libby app, which would either be library, audio, or ebook. 2.4% were from Audible, which would be ones I purchased, but I just wanted to see how much I used Audible. 12% NetGalley, all e-arcs, and then 15.7% from the library. And that would be physical from the library. Yeah, I just didn't use the library a lot this year. I'm trying to read through books I own physically. Rereads. I did some rereads this year, but not a shit ton. 16.7% were my first time rereading. 1.2% were the second time rereading, and then 2.4 was 3 or more times. And I think that was just City of Girls that I read twice this year. And then 79.8 were first time reads. All right, ratings. So this year I did start using StoryGraph and using quarter stars. So there's a lot more options this year. But when we look at it, so straight up 5, I had 11.3%, which is really great. Last year, I only had 7.9% that were 5 stars. So love that. And then 4.5 and 4.75, where you at? 15.5% and 4.2%. Awesome. Love that. So that's like almost 20% in that like higher, almost 5-star range. And then 4 and 4.25, 7% and 9.9, so about 17%. So right there, that's like almost half of the books that I read this year. That's almost 50% that's 4 and above. That's amazing. I think that's so much better than before. Yeah. Last year I had like mostly 3 and like 3.5. So I love that. I only had 8.5% that were 3, and then just like, little sliver, and then 11.3 that were 3.5, 12.7 that were 3.75. But yeah, the bulk of it was 4 up to 5. Yay. So my goal worked of like trying to not be so stingy with higher ratings and just like, I enjoyed this, so let me give it a higher rating, you know? It's so funny looking, I still have on my Canva, like with the graphs, my 2019, a couple of things, and it was 50.5% young adult, which is crazy, and then just so many 3 and 3.5, only 5.7% 5 stars, and then 53% fantasy, and 14.3% contemporary. Why? Just no. So yeah, in summary, I read mostly adult fantasy, and I liked a lot of what I read. I quite enjoyed most of what I read. So that's fun. Yay for me. I'm not mad at it. Spent a little too much money, or not a little too much, but more money than I want to, so gonna kind of focus on that next year. But yeah, there we go. There's my stats. Oh my God, bird. Bird, you can't get in. Sir. All my windows have like this mirror tint on them, and birds often hit the windows, and one was just like trying to flutter into my window. No. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.